UBooks is your destination for digital journeys, offering an expansive range of international publications. Specializing in top-tier books, ebooks, and multimedia formats, we also offer expertly crafted audiobooks and critical reviews on any literary work. Our capabilities extend to producing high-quality courses on a wide array of topics across diverse fields. As innovators in mind map creation, we also provide comprehensive research creation services. Dive into the realm of art with our emotive videos, audio songs, music, and poetry tailored for any subject. At UBooks, AI-powered creation is boundless, embodying the notion that the sky is the limit. Reach out to us today to explore the creative possibilities we offer.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the sources you're interested in, unpack them, and really pull out the key knowledge for you. We try to make even complex stuff feel, manageable.
That's the goal.
And today, we're getting into the nuts and bolts of the English language, specifically grammar. It's like a look behind the curtain at how sentences work and how we can maybe make ours work a bit better.
And our source for this is your own copy of A Complete Book of Grammar by NAVEED IQBAL.
Right. So the mission today isn't just about listing grammar terms, is it?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
We want to get at the real value in understanding these basics, the building blocks of English. It's about communicating more clearly, feeling more confident when you express yourself. Doesn't matter if you think you're a grammar expert or, just starting to figure it out.
Okay, so starting broad then, what actually is language, fundamentally?
Well, the book puts it quite nicely. It calls language the expression of human communication. It's how we share knowledge, beliefs, how we experience things together.
So sharing ideas and experiences.
Exactly. And the key thing is, it's not random. It's a system. It uses symbols, sounds, written marks, gestures even, but they're fixed, arbitrary symbols that follow, grammatical rules. That's how we manage to communicate.
So it's much more than just pointing at things and naming them.
Oh, definitely. Language is this incredible kind of multi-purpose tool. Yes, it labels your coffee cup, but it also lets us talk about big ideas like justice or freedom or share a quick feeling or build a whole argument. It's how we make sense of each other and the world, really.
And thinking about connecting with the world, English has a huge global presence, doesn't it? You hear it everywhere.
It really does. The book points out how important English is internationally. Think about, say, the Olympics. We got people from all over the world, and English is often the common language. Same with diplomats, politicians, in international settings. And major organizations like the UN, NATO English is their main working language. It's like the default in so many places.
That's the big picture. But what about, for you, the listener, just day to day?
Well, personally, it can make a massive difference. If you travel, knowing some English can be incredibly helpful in, over 100 countries?
Wow.
Just asking for directions if you're lost or getting help in an emergency. The book actually makes the point that sometimes knowing English could even be life-saving.
That really puts it into perspective.
Yeah.
And professionally, it feels almost essential now.
It often is, in fields like business, tech, science. Being able to communicate well in English isn't just a nice-to-have anymore. It's often a basic requirement. Good English skills can genuinely open up career doors.
Okay, so we're all kind of swimming in the sea of language, and English is a major part of it. Let's get to the bit that sometimes feels, a bit intimidating. Grammar. Why does it matter so much?
The book has a really good perspective on this. It calls grammar a system of language, something that's always, growing and changing. It's about how meaning is made and split.
How meaning is made.
Yeah. Basically, it's the underlying structure, the guide that tells us how to put words together, how to change them, so that what we mean comes across clearly, without confusion.
So it's not just about, arguing over where a comma goes in some old textbook.
Definitely not. The book uses a great analogy. Grammar is like the rules of a game.
Okay.
If everyone just made up their own rules, the game would fall apart, wouldn't it? Total chaos. Nobody would understand what was happening. Language is the same. We need those shared rules grammar to understand each other accurately and avoid constant mix-ups.
That game analogy really helps. But okay, for someone listening who maybe feels a bit overwhelmed by learning grammar, what's a practical way and how do you actually get better?
The book has some very practical advice. One of the best things, just read English books more often.
Really? Just read?
Yeah, it sounds simple, but as you read well-written English, you're kind of unconsciously absorbing the patterns, the feel of correct grammar. It's like listening to good music helps you understand rhythm. It seeps in and can really improve your own writing and speaking.
So surrounding yourself with good examples, basically.
Exactly. And the other piece of advice is smart. Focus on the specific bits of grammar that you find difficult. Don't try to tackle everything at once. Figure out your personal weak spots and work on those first.
That feels a lot less daunting. Okay, let's get into the details then. The parts of speech. What are the key ones we need to know?
Right, so words are the basic building blocks, and we classify them by their job in the sentence. You've got your nouns, pronouns, adjectives, verbs, adverbs. Then prepositions, conjunctions, and interjections. Let's maybe zoom in on a few that sometimes cause confusion.
Sounds good. What about those little words that connect things?
Yes. Well, you've got prepositions. The book says they explain the relation between two grammatical words. Think of words like in, on, at, under, for, with. They show relationships often positioned in space or time.
Like the book on the table.
Exactly. Then there are conjunctions. Their job is to combine two words or sentences. Your classic and, but, or. They're like the glue holding different ideas together.
And those words that just burst out, like exclamations.
Those are interjections. The book calls them words that express some sudden feelings, often with an exclamation mark, like, ouch, wow, hey, well done. An interesting thing is they often stand apart grammatically from the main sentence, just little bursts of emotion.
Got it. Makes sense. Okay, let's talk about nouns, the names of things. Seems like there are loads of different types.
There are quite a few categories the book mentions: common, proper, collective, concrete, abstract, countable, uncountable, material nouns.
Whoa, okay, let's break that down. Common and proper.
Sure. Common nouns are the general names for people, places, things, dog, city, teacher. Proper nouns are the specific names, and they always start with a capital letter: Fido, London, Mr. Smith, Pakistan. They identify a particular one.
And collective nouns, they sound like groups.
That's exactly right. They refer to a group or collection of people or things treated as one unit, like team, audience, family, flock.
What about the others, briefly? Concrete, abstract.
Concrete nouns are things you can physically perceive, touch, see here, like table, music, cloud. Abstract nouns are ideas, qualities, states, things you can't touch, like happiness, idea, justice.
And countable, uncountable.
Countable nouns are things you can count individually and make plural: one book, two books. Uncountable nouns usually refer to things you can't count as separate units, like water, information, advice. Material nouns name materials or substances, like gold, wood, plastic.
Okay, quite a few distinctions there. Now, making nouns plural, that's not always just adding an S, is it?
No, definitely not. The book lays out the common rules. Yeah. Adding S is the most frequent: cats, days, but.
There's always a but.
Right. If a noun ends in she, estis, she, or x, you usually add s, like church, churches, bus, buses, boss, boxes.
And words ending in ye, they're tricky.
They are. If there's a consonant before the y, you change the y to I and add e's. So baby becomes babies, story becomes stories. But if there's a vowel before the y, you just add s, boy, boys, day, days.
And then there are the completely irregular ones.
Yes, English loves those. Man, men, woman, women, child, children, foot, feet, tooth, teeth, mouse, mice, goose, geese.
You just have to learn them.
Pretty much. In the book, it mentions a few odd ones, like ox becoming oxen.
What about compound words, like mother-in-law?
Good question. Generally, you add the s to the main or principal word in the compound. So it's mothers-in-law, commanders-in-chief.
And some words just don't change.
Yep. Some nouns have the same form for singular and plural. The book gives sheep, deer, fish as examples. One sheep, many sheep.
Good to know. Now, showing possession, that's the apostrophe S, right? Like John's car.
Exactly. The book calls this the possessive case. Usually you add S to show something belongs to someone or something. Ollie's book.
But it's used in other ways, too.
Yes, the book points out it's not just literal ownership. We use it with time expressions: a week's holiday. space or weight, a stone's throw, names of buildings or places, St. Paul's Cathedral. And also to show authorship or origin, Shakespeare's plays, Mother's Love.
So it's about relationship, not just owning.
Precisely. And one last crucial thing about nouns, or rather subjects, is agreement with the verb.
Subject-verb agreement. Why is that so important?
It's fundamental for clarity. The verb has to match the subject in number. Singular subject takes a singular verb, plural subject takes a plural verb, and in person, first person, I weigh, second you, he shat they. The book's example, I am, not I is, or they are, not they is. If they don't match, the sentence just sounds wrong.
Makes sense. Keeps things clear. Okay, let's talk about pronouns, the words that stand in for nouns. Lots of types here, too.
Oh, yeah. The book lists personal, reflexive, emphatic, demonstrative, indefinite, interrogative, distributive, reciprocal, relative, compound, and possessive pronouns. Quite a family.
Let's focus on personal pronouns first. They seem pretty core.
They really are. We, he, she, it, we, they. What's key about them, unlike most nouns, is that they change their form depending on their job in the sentence. The book calls this case.
Cases. Sounds a bit technical.
It does, but the idea is simple. It's just about the pronoun's role. Is it the one doing the action? That's the nominative case, the subject, I went. Is it receiving the action? That's the objective case, she told me. Is it showing ownership? That's the possessive case, that's my coat, or the coat is mine.
So the word itself changes. I becomes me, or my mine.
Exactly. The book provides a handy chart showing these changes for all the personal pronouns, singular and plural. Like, first person singular is I, me, mine.
Yeah.
Second person is you, your, yours. Third person singular, he, he's, she, her, is, a tits, and so on.
Useful to see it laid out.
Yeah.
And the book mentioned a point about politeness when listing people.
Yes. It's a convention in English. When you're referring to yourself and someone else, you generally put the other person first.
Yeah. So my friend and I, not I and my friend.
Correct. And the same if they're objects. He gave the book to Sarah, and not to me and Sarah. It's just considered more polite, a bit more considerate.
A little social nicety there. Got it. Okay, moving on to adjectives. The describing words.
Yep, they add detail, tell us more about nouns or pronouns. The book highlights a few types. Demonstrative adjectives point things out. This, that, these, those. Like, this chair is comfortable.
And distributive ones.
They refer to each member of a group individually. Each, every, either, neither. As in, every student passed.
And ones that ask questions.
Interrogative adjectives. Whose, which, what. Using questions like, whose keys are these? And then possessive adjectives show ownership, similar to possessive pronouns, but used before the noun. My, your, his, her, its hair, their, like, her idea was brilliant.
Okay. The book also brought up each other and one another. Are they adjectives? How do they work?
They're actually reciprocal pronouns, showing a mutual action or relationship. The general rule is each other for two people or things. The twins help each other, and one another for more than two. The team members supported one another.
So a subtle difference based on number?
Usually, yes. And either and neither can also act as adjectives, referring to choices between two. Either option works or neither answer is correct.
What about those tricky quantity words? Little, a little, the little.
Yes. Subtle but important. Little, without a, generally means not much, implying a negative or insufficient amount. We have little time. A little means some, a small amount. There's a little milk left. And the little refers to the small amount that does exist, often implying it's all there is. He spent the little money he had.
That's clear. And adjectives change form when we compare things, right? The degrees of comparison.
Exactly. You have the positive degree, the basic form, like big. The comparative degree, comparing two things, often adding or using more, like bigger or more interesting. And the superlative degree, comparing three or more, often adding est or using most, like biggest or most interesting. The book stresses using the right form, like she is older than me or this is the best coffee.
And it mentions some common errors people make.
It did. Things like confusing elder oldest, usually for family, with older oldest, more general, or errors in comparative structures, like saying he is more tall instead of he is taller, little things that mark out more precise usage.
Good points. And we can't talk adjectives without mentioning articles a and the. Tiny words, big impact.
Absolutely crucial. A and N are indefinite articles used for non-specific singular countable nouns. And before a vowel sound, an apple, an hour. Before a consonant sound, a cat, a university. But us is the definite article used for specific nouns the listener knows about, or things already mentioned, or unique things.
When do we not use a or an?
The book notes you don't use them with plural nouns, dogs, not dogs, or with most uncountable nouns, water, information, music, unless you say a piece of information or something similar.
And the book seems to have a lot of specific rules.
It does. You use the with specific things, the dog in the garden. Unique things, the sun, rivers, the Nile, seas, the Atlantic, mountain ranges, the Alps, superlatives, the tallest, ordinal numbers, the second, musical instruments, play the piano, and sometimes to represent a whole class, the tiger is endangered. The book lists quite a few specific cases.
Okay, that covers adjectives and articles well. Let's switch to verbs, the action words, the heart of the sentence.
Definitely the heart. The book defines them as words indicating action, state of being, or possession. Run, is, seems, has. They're the engine.
And like nouns, they come in different types, transitive, intransitive.
Yes. Transitive verbs need an object to receive the action. Like, she kicked the ball. Ball is the object. Intransitive verbs don't need an object, like he laughed. Linking verbs connect the subject to something that describes usually a noun or adjective. Common ones are forms of be, is, are, was, seem, become. She is a doctor. He seems tired.
What about auxiliary verbs, the helpers?
Right, helping verbs. They work with a main verb. The primary auxiliaries are be, have, and do. They help form tenses, I'm going, questions, do you understand, and negatives. She has not arrived.
And modals, can, will, should.
Those are modal auxiliaries. They express things like ability can, permission may, possibility might, obligation must, should, future intention will. They're unique, they don't change form for person or number, and they're always followed by the base form of the main verb.
The book mentioned action verbs and linking verbs too.
Yeah, that's a broader classification. Action verbs show, well, action, run, think, build. Linking verbs, as we said, connect the subject to a description or identity. He's, feel, taste.
Verbs also have mood and voice. Sounds dramatic.
A little. Mood refers to the speaker's attitude. Indicative is for facts, opinions. It is raining. Imperative is for commands. Stop. Subjunctive is for wishes, possibilities, hypotheticals, if I were you. Voice is about the subject's role. Active voice means the subject does the action. The cat chased the mouse. Passive voice means the subject receives the action. The mouse was chased by the cat.
And strong versus weak verbs, what's that distinction?
That's about how they form the past tense. Strong verbs, or irregular verbs, change their internal vowel. Sing, sang, sung, go, went, gone. Weak verbs, regular verbs, just add e, or e. Walk, walked, hoped, hoped, learned, or learned.
The book also mentioned verbals, infinitives, gerunds.
Yes, these are really interesting. They are forms made from verbs, but acting as other parts of speech. The infinitive, to plus verb, like to swim, often acts like a noun. The gerund, verb plus ing, like swimming, also acts like a noun. Swimming is fun. Participles like swimming or swum can act like adjectives, a swimming pool, a broken chair. They allow for more complex and concise sentences.
Okay, deep dive into verbs. Now, adverbs. They modify things, right? Add more detail.
Exactly. They usually modify verbs, telling how, when, where, why. Adjectives, telling how much, or even other adverbs. Examples from the book. She sings beautifully. Modifies verb. It's very cold. Modifies adjective. He works extremely hard. Modifies adverb. Sometimes they modify whole phrases or sentences too.
So they're pretty flexible. What kinds are there?
The book groups them by function. Manner, slowly, carefully. Place, here, everywhere. Time, now, yesterday. Frequency, often, sometimes. Degree, very, almost. Reason, therefore. Result, contrast, however. Condition, if. It gives examples for each category, showing their different roles.
Is there a typical order if you use several adverbs together?
There's a common preferred order, though it's not rigid. Often it's manner, then place, then frequency, then time. Like, he worked diligently in the library, place every day, frequency last week, time. It often just sounds more natural that way.
What about disjuncts and conjuncts? Those sound more specific.
They are. They're adverbs that modify the whole clause or sentence. Disjuncts express the speaker's attitude or comment. Frankly, I disagree. Luckily, no one was hurt. Conjuncts link clauses or sentences logically. However, there was a problem. Therefore, we must act. They help connect ideas smoothly.
Got it. Now, let's revisit prepositions, those little relational words. The book seemed to stress their importance and tricky nature.
Absolutely. They show the relationship between a noun pronoun and something else. The keys are in the drawer. The book mentions simple ones, at, on, for, compound ones, according to, instead of, and even participial ones, regarding concerning.
With so many like at, in, on, to, for, how do you know which one is right?
It can be tricky. Usage is often idiomatic. The book goes through many common prepositions, giving examples and highlighting potential confusion, like the difference between in, location within, and into, movement towards inside, or on surface versus upon, often more formal, or movement onto. It clarifies at for specific times points versus in for period series.
It specifically called out common errors.
Yes, that's super helpful. It lists pairs like agree with a person, but agree to a proposal, or angry with someone versus angry at something, or die of an illness versus die from a wound. It even includes exercises with answers, which is great for practice.
Practice definitely helps with prepositions. Okay, conjunctions next. The joining words.
Yep, they connect words, phrases, or clauses. The book splits them into two main types, coordinating conjunctions and subordinating conjunctions.
Coordinating. Those are the N boys.
That's the acronym. For and, nor, but, or yet, so. They join elements that are grammatically equal. Words, salt and pepper, phrases, over the hill or under the bridge. Clauses, I wanted to go, but I was tired.
And subordinating conjunctions.
They introduce dependent clauses, clauses that can't stand alone. Words like because, although, since, if, when, while. They show the relationship between the dependent clause and the main clause. I'll call you when I arrive. Because it was raining, we stayed inside.
Clear distinction. And interjections, we touched on those already. The ouch and words.
Exactly. Quick bursts of emotion, usually grammatically separate.
Now let's build bigger structures. Clauses. A clause has a subject and a verb, right?
Correct. It's a core unit. The book distinguishes independent or main clauses. They can be a sentence on their own from dependent or subordinate clauses, which need an independent clause to make sense.
And these dependent clauses have different jobs. Noun, adjective, adverb clauses.
Right. A noun clause functions like a noun. What she said is interesting. The clause is the subject. An adjective clause modifies a noun or pronoun, often starting with who, which, that. The woman who lives next door is a doctor. An adverb clause acts like an adverb, modifying a verb, adjective, or adverb, indicating time, reason, condition, etc. He left because he was angry.
We've mentioned subjects and verbs. What about objects and complements?
A direct object receives the action of a transitive verb. Ask what or whom after the verb. He threw the ball. Threw what? The ball. A subject complement follows a linking verb and renames or describes the subject. She is an architect. Architect renames she. The soup tastes good. Good describes soup.
The book included sentence diagrams, too, which looked interesting, a visual way to see structure.
Exactly. Sentence diagramming maps out the sentence, showing the relationships between the subject, verb, objects, modifiers, conjunctions. The book diagrams simple sentences like birds fly and more complex ones with multiple clauses and phrases. It can really clarify how all the parts fit together for visual learners.
That sounds potentially very helpful. Okay, another big topic. Tenses, placing actions in time.
Crucial. The book covers the three main times, present, past, future, and the four aspects within each. Simple or indefinite, continuous or progressive, perfect and perfect continuous. That gives us 12 basic tenses.
Let's quickly go through the present tense forms. Simple present.
Used for habits, routines, general truths, facts. The sun rises in the east. I drink coffee every morning.
Present continuous.
Action happening right now or around now, often temporary. I am talking on the phone. She is studying engineering.
Present perfect.
Connects past and present. Used for actions completed at an unspecified past time or actions started in the past that continue to the present, or past actions with present results. I have visited Paris. She has lived here for 10 years. I have lost my keys. Result, I can't get in now.
And present perfect continuous.
Emphasizes the duration of an action that started in the past and is still ongoing. I have been waiting for an hour.
Okay, now the past tenses. Simple past.
Completed action at a specific time in the past. We went to the cinema yesterday. Formed by adding ed for regular verbs or using the irregular form.
Past continuous.
Action in progress at a specific point in the past. I was watching TV when you called.
Past perfect.
An action completed before another action or time in the past. The train had left by the time we arrived. Leaving happened before arriving.
And past perfect continuous.
Action that was continuously ongoing before another point in the past. He had been working there for 5 years before he quit.
And briefly, the future tenses.
Simple future, will plus verb. For predictions, spontaneous decisions. Future continuous will be plus douche. For action in progress at a future time. Future perfect will have peach pistas plus participle for action completed by a future time. Future perfect continuous will have been plus doed for duration up to a future point. The book also mentions going to for plans and intentions. Tense exercises in the book help solidify this.
Lots to keep track of. Let's talk active versus passive voice next. Subject doing versus receiving the action.
Right. Active, the dog chased the squirrel. Dog is doing the chasing. Passive, the squirrel was chased by the dog. Squirrel is receiving the chasing. The book gives the basic passive formula, form of be plus past participle.
Why use passive?
Often used when the action or receiver is more important than the doer, or when the doer is unknown or obvious. My wallet was stolen. We don't know who did it. The decision was made yesterday. Focus is on the decision. His book shows how to form passive in different tenses and even for commands, let the door be closed.
Okay, last major grammar point. Direct and indirect speech. Reporting what was said.
Direct speech is the exact words, in quotes. He said, I am tired. Indirect or reported speech conveys the meaning without quotes, often involving changes. He said that he was tired.
What kinds of changes usually happen?
Several key ones the book outlines. Pronouns often shift. He becomes he should. Verb tense is usually back shift, move one step into the past, present becomes past becomes past perfect. Time, place, words change, now to then, here to there to that day over. The structure for reporting questions using is whether or question words and commands using to plus infinitive also changes. Expressions like good morning might become he greeted, he are. The book gives specific examples for all these shifts.
So quite a few adjustments needed for accurate reporting. Beyond pure grammar, the book touched on enhancing communication, literary devices.
Yes, briefly. It mentions simile comparison using like or as brave as a lion, and metaphor direct comparison without like or as. He is a lion in battle. These make language more colorful and understandable.
And reading comprehension skills.
Crucial. The book discusses understanding passages, identifying main ideas, finding details, understanding vocabulary from context, pronoun references. It offers tips and even a sample passage with questions.
It sounds like the book covers a huge amount beyond basic grammar.
It really does. It also gets into story writing, letters, dialogue, essay types, punctuation rules, commonly confused words, spelling, British versus American differences, idioms, phrasal verbs, vocabulary building. It aims to be quite comprehensive.
Well, this has been a really thorough deep dive into English grammar using a complete book of grammar as our guide. It really highlights that understanding this stuff isn't just academic, is it? It's about practical communication.
Exactly. Whether it's for travel, work, or just everyday conversations, getting a better handle on grammar empowers you to express yourself more clearly and effectively. It's a foundational skill.
So thinking about this whole complex system, we've just explored the rules, the exceptions, the nuances. Here's something for you, the listener, to consider. What part of English grammar do you find most fascinating or maybe the most challenging? And how could understanding that particular piece better actually improve how you connect and communicate with others? Definitely something to reflect on.
A great question to end on.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.